welcome to shop tour number 1. This is going to be focusing on the sharpening side of the shop, or basically the sharpening equipment of the shop. It's kind of mixed together, but so it's not really completely on one side or the other. But we will start with the 1x30 section. Then we're going to move to the polishing section, and I'll explain why I keep those where I keep them. Then we will move up here to the Tormek sharpening section, my 2x42, then we'll jump there. Then we'll talk about my woodworking table here in the middle. And then we will finish up with this little desk section back here, which is where I keep my manual TS Prof KO3 and TS Prof sharpeners. All right, so let's get started. And a couple other things I will point out along the way. We will also talk about air cleaners, ventilation, and systems for collecting dust and debris from sharpening. So let's move in and take a look at the 1x30s. We will start there. All right, so here we are at my 1x30 setup, and you can see I have 3 of them. I have some older Harbor Freight models that have been converted, made variable speed, so they run in both directions. They have upgraded parts in them that I got from Cliff Curry. So the drive wheels are upgraded, the tracking wheels are upgraded, and they have sewing machine motors on them as opposed to having a traditional Harbor Freight motor. Now, let's talk about why those are important. The main reason is the variable speed and the ability to go both directions. So I can sharpen things edge trailing or edge leading in both directions. I have complete control over the speed, which is great because it keeps things from getting too hot. That's the problem with stock motors on most 1x30s. Go too fast unless it's a low speed 1x30, which those are out there right now too. I know Buck Tool has one, and some others have some low speed 1x30s, which are a great option. Only thing I don't like about the ones that I've seen out there, they don't have the ability to go both directions, or at least very few have. In the middle of these 3 1x30s, you see my favorite. It's the Toolcker. The Toolcker is my favorite for a couple reasons. And if I had to make a recommendation to people of what is the best 1x30 to buy, I would recommend this one. And I will explain to you why that is. It's mostly, 1, versatility, because you can do so many things with it. And 2, because it comes with 95% of the stuff that you need to do to a Harbor Freight model already installed, and you don't have to do anything else to it. So that's one of the reasons I really like this. So 1, you can see it's very open. So you can work on the top, you can work down on the bottom. It has other attachments. It has a rubber wheel attachment. I can take this platen off. I can put this rubber wheel on there, and that gives me this nice big rubber wheel that I can push into for using things like you see up here, 3M Scotch-Brite belts. I don't have to worry about building much of my own on here, although I have modified mine. I did put a different tracking wheel on. So these came with flat tracking wheels. Some people have had issue with the flat tracking wheel. Cliff Curry makes a wheel now for this, so you can get this wheel up here from Cliff Curry. Or I also have a video out there showing where you can buy a wheel from Wen and install a Wen wheel up here for normal Wen 1x30. It's the same size. That works really well. Or you can get an older Harbor Freight if you have an older Harbor Freight, or other wheels. Those can work too. You just have to change the bearings out to get those to work. And it's the same with the Wen wheel. You have to change the bearings. But if you look through my other videos, I talk about where you can get the bearing. It's very easy. Just pop it out The difference with Cliff's wheel is that the bearing is permanently set in there, so you can't change it out. It already comes with the bearing in there in the appropriate size for this. Just know there are options. You don't just have just Cliff's wheel as the only option there. You can actually use other 1x30s. You just need other parts, and the bearings are not expensive. You can get them on Amazon, and like I said, there's links in other videos to that. All right, some other quick fixes you can do for tracking wheels. If you still have the flat one, you can do what you see that I did to this drive wheel down below, is I added just a tiny bit of electrical tape to it, and that will work too. It gives you just enough arch. It helps the belt stay on better. And for a long time, I just added maybe a 0.5 millimeter of electrical tape to the flat wheel that was up here, and that worked great for me for a long time. I didn't even worry about doing this change until, I ran into other people that were having, some people had issues, even the tape, they were still having an issue. So I always knew that the changing the tracking wheel to an arched wheel, not a flat wheel, because you can see all these are flat, would be a better option. So that was why we started moving towards, getting a better replacement wheel. And also why I talked to Cliff Curry about, hey, Cliff, is there any chance, like how you do for the Harbor Freight models, could you make us a wheel for the Toolkers? And he did that. So that is out there. It's available now. And that's a great option. Now, let me quickly show you something here too. A couple other points on this particular sharpener, because I think it's a very popular one, and it should be, and there's a couple other great reasons. One thing I want to talk to you about is identifying these. You will see these sold by many different sellers, okay? I've done a lot of business with companies in China in the past, and one thing that they are very willing to do is they will sell just about anybody anything. If it's something that they have the patent for, the design on, they will put any name on it that you want. If you buy enough units from somebody, they will put any old name on it. The reason we call this the Toolcker is because the majority of these come with Toolcker written on it, Toolcker, and this little plate down here. So if you look at one of these, and it might have whatever the name of the person or seller's name of their company is, they might call it something completely different. One of the dead kind of giveaways is, one, you'll look at it and you'll see, hey, this looks exactly like it. If you see everything looks the same, and especially a lot of times in the picture, you can see this where it says Toolker, or you'll see this little plate here. You can pretty much be guaranteed that it is a Toolker. Like I said, if you buy enough units, they will put, I could have this made, if I told them I wanted, 500 of these, but I wanted to say ALX Sharpen 1x30, they'll put on here ALX Sharpen 1x30. What's funny that I found with the Toolkers is people don't even change the name anymore. So it'll just be under a different seller's name or whatever name they decide to call this thing. They still leave the plates on. So look through the Amazon listings. In my store, I usually have at least a minimum of 3. And in my Amazon store link, I have multiple. So I check it regularly, and I link all the ones to me that look like the Toolker. Just go in there, click on them, and look around and check the prices, because the prices change regularly. When I bought mine, I paid almost, I think it was $360 for it at the time, but they have come down considerably recently, and I've seen some of these as low in the 240s, sometimes they're 250s, and sometimes they're as high as in the high 3s. Now, there are some things you want to check before you pull the trigger on it to be sure it's the same thing. Now, some of them are not selling you all the parts. You want to make sure, in my opinion, that it has the rubber wheel and the platen. But like I said, this platen comes off, I can put the rubber wheel on there. I have seen situations where they were only selling the rubber wheel. I've seen situations where they're selling the same machine and just the platen and not the rubber wheel. And sometimes that is the difference in the price. I would just check to make sure that you're getting both of those parts. Now, what have been some other issues that have come up with these? The other issue that has come up with these have been with if you're going to put an angle guide on here. Now, I have a whole video on how to make your angle guide more precise, get better precision out of it, and how to customize it. Most of the Toolkers have had a magnetic platen. So I'll show you here. I can pull mine off. You can see I got two magnets back here, flat magnets, and I show how to modify this regular buckle guide that you can find on Amazon, how to make the little cuts and do things to get this to work better for you. And I simply just take mine and I snap it on there with these two rare earth magnets, and it works great. There are some that have come with platens that were not magnetic. On my website, in the product section, in the 1x30 area, I have some links to square magnets that are really powerful that people have taken and put on the back side of this platen. They'll put one here and one here, two square ones, 1-inch ones, and that has worked for them and made their platen stick to it on a platen that wasn't magnetic. If it's a magnetic, you can use just the little strip magnets that you see here that I have linked on my page, and that's another way to attach it. Some people have told me they have also permanently attached it to it, which is an option too. You could just permanently attach it. You know, there's a bunch of ways that you can, if you're creative, that you could come up with attaching this, but I have found that the magnets work very well. If I had to only pick one to start out with, I would go with this one for just overall versatility. I find it to be more versatile. I will tell you, I very much like the Harbor Freight models as well. I am happy that I own both. And if I was given a choice, I would always have both models. I very much like this model for doing serrated knives. I like running it edge trailing using my cut down belts, which you can see down here. I have a bunch of little custom made belts that I use for doing things like serrated and also gardening tools. Can I do that on the Toolcker? Yes, I can. But the one thing that I definitely found Harbor Freight excels at is serrated knives. And it's basically because there's just a little less, there's more slack belt area up in here, and I tend to be doing them in this area. Now, it doesn't mean I can't do it on the Toolcker. I can. The one difference is that this platen, and I'm going to put one on here and show you. The platen is very big and there's not a lot of space. So yes, can I get in there and do a serration? Absolutely I can. There's no reason why I can't. There's enough space in there, but I do just like this upper wide open portion a little bit better. That's the reason I like the Toolcker over the Harbor Freight, are those things that I mentioned. Overall versatility, and number two being it comes already with just about everything I need. I don't have to mount the motors like I did in here. I don't have to replace all the wheels. I don't have to drill this thing out. I don't have to take it apart. I don't have to do all the cuts and things in here that you see if you ever watch one of Cliff's videos on how to convert a Harbor Freight to variable speed. You'll see what's involved in it. The other reason I like this, and it's just my opinion, if money's super tight, this is going to be cheaper. The last time I priced it out, and it's been a while, the difference between the two, after you do all the conversions to this, so we're talking upgrading all the wheels, putting the sewing machine motor on, buying the Harbor Freight model in the first place, and then your work, and then compared to this, which comes pretty much ready to go, this was $85 more. And for me to not have to go through all that, totally worth it. If you're on a super tight budget and you're trying to get the maximum stuff that you can, you know, you might want to save the $85 and start with a Harbor Freight. There's nothing wrong with either one. We all have different ways of doing things. There's not one way that's right and there's not one way that's wrong. If you talk to Cliff Curry, Cliff might tell you he likes this a lot better. And, and that's what he sells parts for and does things with. You talk to me, I'm going to tell you that I like this better, but I also like this and I'm glad I own both. And I ideally, I think having one of each is ideal. And as you can see, I have 3 1x30s and I think that's even better. I actually have 4. I have another one out in my shed where I do lawnmower blades. It's an older Wen. It's not variable speed, but I run a leather strap on there for when I do garden tools and things that I do out in the shed. I have a strap that I can, strap those tools with. So even your old tools, a lot of times you'll still find a use for them in your shop that you can keep using and just adding to your collection of things that you use for sharpening. Now, the one last thing I'll say about this is a lot of guys really love or start out with a Ken Onion Elite. I think the Ken Onion Elite sharpener is great. My only complaints with it are a couple things. One, I find that the 1x30s do a far better job at removing material faster and just better overall. I also don't like the fact that they only go edge trailing. So everything done on a Ken Onion Elite is edge trailing, but it's a very good way to learn sharpening. So I'm not going to, I do recommend them. I think they're great to have. I still have one. It's sitting right there on my shop table right over there. And there are times, and at least a couple times a year, I grab that and still use it because there's many ways to sharpen and every tool has its advantages and things that make it great. I don't have the newest Ken Onion Elite. They're pretty expensive. And if it was between that and this, I'd rather own the Toolcker. So that's my opinion on that. Some people might tell you different that, they'd rather start with a Ken Onion Elite. The belts are smaller, but then again, you're also replacing your belts more often. I think they're noisier, and I just am not a huge fan of, how can I put this? Let's put it this way. If given the choice between the two, you think your goal is going to be having a business or knife sharpening service, I just think this is a better option. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to knock it because there are many people that run sharpening businesses with a Ken Onion Elite. You can do it. There are many people that use multiple ones. I've seen people that use, 3, 4 of them on a downdraft table, just like this one. So that's, that is an option. So let's back out a little bit and we'll talk about the table that I have it on. It is height adjustable. So I love this table because I can go up, I can go down, I can have 4 memories in it and it will go quite high, which is really nice though for not having neck strain and being able to work at whatever level that you want to work at. The highest 47, 48, 48.4 inches high. So that's great. And you can see I'm 5'8". So someone who was like 6'4", 6'5", if they needed to sharpen, it's a great way to do that. What I love about this most of all, and what I love about the versatility of the Toolcker, and you guys that are Ken Onion Elite users who love going edge trailing, this is a great way to edge trail on here. So in edge trailing, it's nice to be kind of over top and seeing your work. So I dropped this unit way down to somewhere around 30 inches. It's my number 1 setting for me. If I'm going to be working on the top of this sharpener, and this is where I do boning knives and fillet knives. I've mentioned that before. I always do them edge trailing, and usually it's right on the top of here. So if this was a boning or filleting knife, I drop this table down, I have my belt up here, and I'm working right up top here with the belt going away from me. And that's how I do boning and filleting knives. When I'm done, I can simply hit whatever memory that I was using before and bring that table back up to whatever height that I want it to be. I do also love stropping on any of these. Now, once again, I'll just reiterate, you don't need 3, okay? I can totally run my business. I could sharpen all day long and do just about everything I needed to do on one machine. So I could work with this all day long. You just got to work smart and just keep in mind you want to be changing your belts as little as possible to keep with a good workflow. So if you only have one, if you have 8 knives to do, put your 120 grit Cubitron belt on there and do all of your knives at the 120, get your burr, get that started, then change your belt. If you go to A30 next, which most of us do, that would then I put the A30 on and do all of those. You can limit how many times you're changing the belt. You can do an entire set of knives and only change the belt 3 times. And there's other advantages. You don't have to worry that your angle on other machines might be a little off. Working that way is a positive too. If you're working with one machine and just changing the belts, you don't have to worry about your angle guide, possibly one being out of adjustment or slightly off, which can skew your great sharpening results. All right, so I think that about covers it for this sharpening table, the height adjustable table, 2 different 1x30 styles. So that ends part 1 of the shop tour with the 1x30s. I've decided to break this up into small portions rather than give it to you all at once because I edited it and the whole shop tour was over 120 minutes. So I'm just editing it in sections and I'm doing each section individually so that it's just not too long because nobody's going to want to watch an hour and 20-minute video. And I thought that would be easier than you guys having to kind of scrub through or look at the timeline and jump to a section where you want it to be. And remember, in the description, I will list links, one to the ongoing list that I keep on my website of products that are in my shop. And I will also throw in some of the more common stuff right into the description. So both of those will be in there. If you see something that you want, it should be easy to find in one of those 2 places. If it's something that I missed or that you can't find a link to, send me a message and I'll do my best to get you the link to what you're looking for. A couple other things that are going on that I'll just discuss here real quickly. One, the GokaFix microscope. I am in negotiations with them right now about a new discount, even bigger than last year's discount. So if you're thinking about getting a digital microscope, hold off for a little bit because we're talking about a really nice discount. My last discussion, we were around 40%. So that could be a very worthwhile buy. I will let you know immediately once we have everything worked out, and I'll see how the negotiations with that go. The other thing to keep an eye out for is I have a really cool video coming out on something I did with the fiber laser. And that should be just about done. It's not going to be super long. I want to show that to you guys because it was mind-blowing. I was just blown away with the results. I'm working on a knife for somebody, and I had a pretty good suspicion that that this would be a great tool for doing something with this particular knife. And it so far exceeded my expectations that I want to share it with y'all because it's something really cool. All right, so keep your eye out for that. Probably drop that tomorrow or maybe in a day after that, depending on how quick I can get it edited. Keep looking for the shop tour is going to be coming out in parts. And then there's some other cool videos also in the works right now. All right, so that's it. Have a great night, everybody.